Hello, gang. This one goes out to all the would-be porters out there and where you get your practice. So this is a 357 XP that I have had for a couple years now. Just been back and forth with trying to get this case half right here. Um, and you know, being lazy as well, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, this is the third case half. Technically, it's the second one that I bought because the one that came with it was broken over here. Then I ordered one, and it turns out they seem to have sold pretty heavily in the UK because parts are available in the UK for these pretty. That's where they always seem to come from. Anyways, the second one I got from UK, and I put it all together. I got it all together, new bearings and everything. And whenever I was bolting it together, nearly every one of the bolt holes for the crate to mesh the crankcases together were stripped. So I tried helicoils, put it back together. Those didn't work because they just didn't work. Okay, and now we're on the third crankcase half. Got it all together, and I just found that this hole right here is warbled out. What a pain. But we're going to be able to get around that because the bolt is long enough for me to put a nut on the back side of it, and it doesn't interfere with the muffler or anything. So I'll just put it together and Loctite that in place, and we'll be golden. We can actually get this thing to possibly run. But so I bought this whole thing in a box, parts off of Barry, and he got it, and he was pissed off. He got ripped off and all this stuff. That's why he took it apart. The port work that was done on it, according to Barry, it would fire up and run, but there was some reason he took it apart. I don't know if it didn't run right or just quit running. I'm not sure. But I checked the numbers on the port work. Now, they didn't take any material off the base. None off out of the combustion chamber or anything like that. This is just one of those, I'm just going to try and port it. All right. Well, if you're going to do that, which I encourage, do it. But do it on a cheap, useless saw and learn how to port before you do it on a 357 XP, for God's sakes. These things are just to get one is not the easiest task. Whenever you do, you got to pay big money for it if it's a decent runner. And if you have a screwed up cylinder on it, these are hard to find, you know, OEM anyways. So just don't ruin good shit, guys. This guy, he put the intake was at 84. Okay. I'm thinking that's probably too high. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's probably too low physically, too high numerically. But the big crusher is the exhaust was set to 92. Yeah, that's a no-go unless you have done crazy stuff. You've got a two-piece head and you're running nitro and all kinds of jazz. So this cylinder is trash. A lot of you guys were going to real quick go, well, can't you machine it and get it back to normal? To get that exhaust roof to, let's say, 100, right? Which is already kind of high for a standard port job on a saw with 34 millimeter stroke. But to get it there, I would have to take so much out that then whenever I put the base down, these right here are often called your ears, right, for the cylinder base. They would be so thin that ultimately you would probably crack that. And not to mention your intake is already at 84, so your intake then is going to be like at 94. So it's just trash now. So whenever you're learning to port, choose something that, well, it's easy to find replacement parts for, and that, isn't so desirable. You need to. But anyways, alas, we have another OEM cylinder right here that I have ported up, and I got it all back together, and hopefully it's going to run really well. My numbers are, I took 45 thousandths out of the band up top, out of the combustion chamber, and then I cut the base, and I got 22 thousandths squish. My intake is at 79, my exhaust is at 104, and my transfers are at 119. So hopefully this thing's going to run well. I don't think that I'm going to finish it up today, get it put back together. I just don't. I get tired of it. Got other things to do, but little pieces at a time. Hopefully we'll get this thing back together and running this week, and we can see how she runs, compare it to the 359 that I've ported, and, just see how it does. But whenever you're learning, guys, whenever you're learning to port, do not pick a saw that is expensive, because you're going to make mistakes. Lord knows I've made them, okay? I have definitely made them, for sure. But most all of my mistakes have been on either Chinese cylinders or, well, I have made some costly mistakes. I have, but most of them are on Chinese cylinders or older stuff it's easy to find a new cylinder to replace the one that you screw up. Because early on, it's inevitable. You're going to screw up, all right? And heck, even now, I think at this point, I've probably ported, I don't know, 60, 70 different cylinders. I don't know. But I still make mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes. So whenever you're learning, because this guy was definitely learning, his port work looks terrible, which I'm not really keen on the looks thing. I really don't care. A lot of my cylinders, guys out there would be like, whoa, that looks bad, but hey, produces power. So I'm not real keen on that. But his stuff, it's just pretty ugly. It's just pretty. Maybe you can see better like that. Not the best by a long shot. And then going to 92 on your exhaust. Come on, kid. You didn't even do any machine work. That's crazy bad. But yeah, that's a trash cylinder now. And that cylinder, to replace it, even if you got a Meteor cylinder, that's still $120. But if you buy an OEM, for one, they're terribly hard to even find. And if you did, probably piston cylinder for OEM, I don't know, probably about $180. It's expensive. So, anyways, wish me luck on 357. Like I said, I'm already done for the day on it. That's the way it goes. But I've got to put new crank seals in here. I've got to take all of those bolts that hold the crankcase halves together out and Loctite them and put them back in. So still more work to come on that. And hopefully the little formula, 45 thousandths from the squish, cut the base, set it to 22 thousandths squish. Intake opens at 79, exhaust opens at 104, and transfers open at 119. Hopefully it'll be a real good runner. We'll see.